like with it very much.
The air conditioner's not too loud.
I will not get a phone like that. I'm going to show you mine. This is a 1990 something.
This is like on the third or fourth one of these.
Is it really?
Yeah, this is a Samsung. I have
I wouldn't know my brands for that.
Okay, this is a Samsung. It's a little different from the others.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Android is like, it's not an iPhone, but it's a different operating system.
Okay.
Smart. Got it?
Can you all hear me with the air conditioning on? Because I don't want to talk any louder than I'm
That'd be good.
talking on. That might be good. I forgot to hand these out last week, so I'll hand them out today. This is a little something a little different. This is a CD from Eckhart Tolle on meditation. And so the first part of it is his talk on meditation and what it means to him. And then there are some meditation practices on it, just like on the other CD. And so this is something for your, I won't say entertainment, for your practice, to listen to the introduction, and then, just like with any CD, you can look at the different one, I think, and one of them is about a 10-minute meditation. It's very good. And it's similar to the first one in the Yoga Nidra, where you sense your senses. Does everybody got the Yoga Nidra CD? Everybody's okay with that? So nobody needs one.
Yeah, I just looked him up on the internet.
You'll notice that
Quite a good article.
this was the book that he wrote when he first started to teach. He had when people write a book like this, it's kind of like something that has to be born. Something's alive. It's like being pregnant. Something's alive and it wants to be born, but you don't know what it is until you see it. So you just are impelled to write it, and it kind of like writes itself. And so he was going to write this in England, but the conditions were not right, so he had an urge to go to Vancouver, so he went to Vancouver, and the conditions were right. I guess he met the people that said, but that's where the book was written, and it became an instant success, which moved into the next book, which is A New Earth. I think somebody had a copy of that, which is A New Earth. But he's written a few smaller things, but I think most of his teaching is on talks, CDs, interviews, and he's written some smaller stuff. So anyway, let's, before I get wound up, let's listen to the second application or second practice on the breath. So we'll keep this going. So I'll turn this on, and so everybody kind of just relax, and we'll listen to this practice and integrate it with the first practice.
What happens if you find yourself dozing off? I mean, I think the very first class you said something about you can still be in a state of awareness.
You're still hearing it, but the thinking consciousness is just going off, which is what this is supposed to do. But you're just not aware of the awareness. So you are aware, but your thinking consciousness, which is where most of us live, just shut down, which is okay. What you can do when you start this, make your intention to be awake and aware and welcoming every perception. So that statement there is setting you up with the intention to be aware, awake and aware for this practice. So then what you become aware of, you won't be aware if you go to sleep, but you'll be aware when you come back and say, wait a minute, where is he? You know, I wasn't even here. That's kind of like when you're driving the car and you go off in a thought about where you're going to go or where you've been or something like that, and all of a sudden you look, oh, wait a minute, where in the hell am I? You know, did I go past my stop, you know? And by the way, who's driving? You see, so your awareness is driving the car, but your conscious awareness is gone somewhere else. So this whole practice is to awaken that awareness that's always there and resting in that, and making our conscious thinking not the dominant one. We'll see how long we can go without turning that monster on again. Because it does, yeah.
Maybe you mentioned this before, why do we do one side, then the other, and then combine?
Good, okay. That, by the way, you'll find that in all of the practices in Yoga Nidra, is this intentional awareness of opposites and then bringing them together, which he will say you can't do. In other words, he's setting you up like with the Zen cone, which is saying, and be aware of the book, all right? Now be aware of the kisses. Now be aware of the book, now be aware of the kisses. Now put them together and make them one. Well, they won't become one. Because they're two, you know. So a thinking mind can't make them one. So the point is to discover how to relax so that I'm not trying to make them become one, but just relaxing the effort to make them become one, and then to discover what happens, because we don't know what's going to happen if all we know is what we try to do with our thought, you see. So this is kind of like a discovery. So the whole point is to get us to relax the effort of thinking, which creates the tension of mental suffering. So let's connect up a few things here. I always like to have an experience of my life that I have during the week, which is always boring, or every day. One day in life, you know, I don't have any big adventures, but little things are adventures. So, and what I'm kind of like well, there was a story, our book was about the diamonds in your backyard, kind of a classic little book. It might have been written in the last century. But basically it was about finding the diamonds in your backyard that you normally miss. So finding the jewels in your own home, in your own everyday life, that we normally miss, you see, because we're thinking about how we'd be better there, or in the past, or in a movie. Somebody in the movie's having a great life, you know, or in a harlequin, or a man's or something. You know, in my life it sucks. It's just, you know, carrying wood, chopping wood, carrying water, doing dishes, you know, all that. So that's what I do. So, but I find the diamonds in it. So the diamond I found this weekend was, I have a kind of like a hedge of tiger lilies, and of course they're retreating now because they've already bloomed. So all these weeds are coming up. So I got this battery-powered hedge clipper. So I'm over there cutting these weeds off, and I disturbed a yellow jacket's nest. See? Oh. So, and they get very angry if disturbed. So anyway, all of a sudden one of them's on my wrist here, and this happened on a Saturday or Sunday, and the itch is just finally, they itch for about a week.
Is it a snake? What's a yellow jacket?
It's a wasp.
Oh, a wasp. Okay.
And they're not like bees. Bees are sacrificial insects. I mean, they sting you once and die. A yellow jacket will just stay there and keep stinging. They're furious, you know, they're like little hornets.
Oh, my goodness.
So anyway, I got stung, boom, boom, boom. One of them even rode in the house on my shirt, so I sat down, or in my sleeve, and I sat down thinking, oh, I got away from him, and he bit me, he stung me. So anyway, I learned one thing, not to clip that. Got this winter, I may go out there, spring it or something. So what's the diamond here? How do you get anything? How do you get any honey out of some yellow jacket sting? Well, what I noticed, now this is where my meditation practice brings the honey to my life, you see, because I noticed that I was going along everyday world, yada, yada, you know, just cutting the things, and the next thing I noticed this activity on my wrist where the wasp was stinging me furiously, you know. There was a moment, and we all experience this, particularly when something happens unexpectedly, really out of the blue. There's a moment where we don't know what is going on. But something was going on, but I didn't know what. And then when I looked at it, oh, a yellow jacket, I'm getting stung. And then it was like, get out of here, right? But in that instant, you see, before when there was that unknowing, there was that moment of unknowing, which happens all the time in accidents or when something unexpected happens. You know, what's going on? You know, or a common expression is WTF. You know, what the fuck? You know, you know that like I don't. You know, so I don't know what's happening, and then your consciousness comes in, and out of that comes knowing. So there's like this unknowing present moment in which I don't exist.
Unknowing.
I don't know how to get my voice off. I just had a voice of control, and now I can't, when I'm typing, it tells me when I misspell a word.
Well, that's a new one.
I'm sorry, I got the sound to 0.
Is there anything that says mute?
I'll stop.
You could sound in
I really have to watch. You know, I think autocorrect helps me a lot.
You want the
When
paper?
Do you know how to, anybody know how to take the voice off of this?
No, figure it out
Look
later.
on settings, and you must start the volume
It's in
thing.
settings and
Well, just listen.
I apologize again.
Oh, it's great.
That's fine.
I have to, when I write on Facebook a lot, autocorrect.
Oh, you gotta be careful.
That thing is tricky because if it wasn't there, it would just like, I would just redline the mistake, then I could find it and I would correct it. But it corrects it for me, thinking it's assuming what I was writing about, and they'll put words in there that completely change the meaning of what I said, and I don't catch it because it's spelled, you know, I don't, you know, so that, you know, so it's damned autocorrect. It's like in Seinfeld, you know, this Newman, you know, when anything goes wrong, Newman!
Yeah.
It's autocorrect. So, Yellow Jackets.
Yeah.
All right, so there is this moment, I'll say of unknowing, and there really, in that moment, there really is no me. Me arises as soon as I see an object, yellow jacket, me. Well, there's me, now there's me being stung. You see, there's a separation. Yellow jacket stinging me. But before, there was no me there. In the actual hit, before I knew what it was, there was no, me arose when the object me is conscious of arose. See, they come up together. Anything. So you're just sitting here doping off in the room, not really, I don't say doping off, just being in the room, not really, just listening. Right? You're just listening to me, and then I say, yeah, look at this, see. So as soon as you see this, now there is a me seeing it, you see. Whereas before that arose, that object, you were just being aware of everything at once. And then suddenly we become aware of that. Anybody here have tinnitus ringing in the ears? Oh, good.
Good.
No, it isn't.
Well, I bet you don't notice it. I bet you just noticed it now.
No, I've noticed it for years.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
All the time?
Yes. No.
Ah. Well, I haven't. And I didn't notice it. I haven't noticed it for, well, I know today until Buck just mentioned it. Now I notice it now. But I was
You try
not
not to
noticing.
pay attention to it. You try not to pay attention to
Well,
it.
there you go. If
Yeah.
you try not to pay attention to it, you're paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Right.
That's right.
Well, you don't think about it all the time.
Yeah. In other words, when you let go of noticing it, it goes away. So it only appears when you are, the yellow jacket only appears when you are aware of it. In other words, they were there, but they didn't appear until when they stung me, you see. Now, so then I'm aware of it. Now, like the itching, I'm not aware of the itching unless I bring my consciousness to it, you know. But then if I'm thinking about something else or whatever, it's not there. So, anyway, but I brought this up because it was this is what I call a metaphor. Now, this, of course, is something that we all experience, but we don't really understand it in the context of this teaching. So I'm trying to take these everyday experiences that we have and putting it in the context of this understanding so that we can get to the root of why we have worry, conflict, pain, upset, and so forth, you see. Because these do not arise until me arises. That person is biting me. You know, so the world, this metaphor, then the world then that irritates me is the yellow jacket. And people, we go through life constantly being stung by somebody said something or some event happened, or even tinnitus can be a yellow jacket. Why have I got this, you see? Can't get rid of it. When I first got it, what is this ringing going on, you know? So I went to the doctor, said, well, you go see the audio the audio specialist, you know. So I go to this clinic, and two doctors in a white suit, and they got rooms of silent rooms and instruments and stuff all around, and they put you in the test, and they're so excited, and they measure this frequency, and they measure that, and they go through the whole thing, and they give you a graph of the frequencies and all this, and says, yes, you got the tinnitus. And I said, what can you do about it? Oh, we can't do anything about it.
$200.
Right.
No, I was told if you get a hearing aid in that ear,
Yeah.
then it will bounce off the hearing you have in this ear.
Yeah, another one is
No,
to
that's a tune,
another
about
one is to
$2,000.
put in a frequency or something that's the same frequency,
Right,
and
right.
knock it off, and all these mechanical ways.
I haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, well, my mother said, I mean, she had lived to be 102, she said, if I can fix it, I fix it. If I can't, I accept it. So if you accept it, you're not putting up any resistance to it, you see, and it's the resistance to the yellow jacket that creates the state. You know, so if you accept it, like Cindy Crawford, beautiful model, got a big old mole on her cheek. You know, that's like that. You put that. I guess you ate it.
Yeah, I ate it.
He had a big chocolate kiss there, but it looked like Cindy Crawford's mole. Now, if that is a sin, you say, I shouldn't have that mole. Then you would be every time you looked in the mirror, you'd be irritated. Oh my God, I got to get this mole off. You know, it makes me so ugly. You see. But so what does Cindy Crawford do? But she accepts it and integrates it and makes her beautiful.
So should there be a response to this power of now? In other words, you either respond or not respond.
No,
Is
well,
that correct? Like, you know, it's like, let's say someone had a stinging remark, let's pretend to be,
Yeah.
is a remark from another person,
right.
okay? And you hear it.
Good, that's a great example.
Yeah.
So you're going along, and, well, I'll give you an example. This was a transformative moment for me. I had a very good friend. He got into some difficulties of his own making. For instance, he would be on the, he lived in a bungalow, and he was up cleaning the roof, and his little boy was down there and says, "Jump, Daddy, jump." So Daddy jumped and broke his ankle, lost his job. You know, this thing started going. And so there was a series of that, one thing after another. So the next series was that, I'm getting more than this I should, but anyway, so then he's working at an auto parts, finally gets a job, he's at an auto parts store selling auto parts. He's got 2 cars, one of them is broke down, the other one, the inspection sticker had expired, but he needs to get a part for his other car. So he drives the one with the expired sticker to the auto parts store to get the part so he can fix it, you know. And of course, he gets stopped, and then he finds out his license expired. So now he loses his job again. You see. So he's in dire straits. So I help him out, and I pay him to make a Buddha pond for me. He's an artist and did a whole bunch of work in the house and everything. So I was, you know, giving him money. I was making money at the time, giving him money so he could get through this fix, you see. And so one of the things that he was going to do he did $500 for the rent or something. I said, so all right, so make me, he is a sculptor, makes beautiful sculptures. So I said, make me a sculpture of a Buddha. Okay, here's the $500. So time goes on, no sculpture, you know, 6 months, a year, you know, go on. So I would drop a little hint, and he would stop bugging me. You know, that, you know, kind of, you know, this kind of thing. So I was becoming a yellow jacket.
Yeah.
You see, so finally, I don't think I really got on his case, but I did keep dropping little hints, you know, because time, you know, going on. And so he sends me a little car lighter that's a little Buddha that you stick in the car lighter and it lights up, and he says, "Here's your Buddha." Which was kind of like, you shove this in a place where the light doesn't shine, you know, that kind of. So that so the stun was like, bam. I remember that, bam, right? You know, he was a really good friend. You know, I'd done a lot. Bam, and I remember saying, "Oh, there's this pain." You know, I mean, in other words, I accepted the sting, and it began to, you know, I didn't take the next step. That son of a bitch.
Yeah.
See, that was, you're not gonna sting him back, you see. So I didn't take the second step, I just ate the sting. Which is the same thing happens when the yellow jacket, you know, it's the yellow jacket's nature to sting us. So if a yellow jacket stings it, you don't say it's personal. You see. That yellow jacket personally selected me to sting me, you see. We don't think that way. It was yellow jacket sting. If you step in their territory, you're going to get stung. That's what they do. So I was more or less dealing with this in that way. In his particular psychological state, I'm not sure backlash. I think it was because he became dependent upon me, and I more or less became his savior. And he resented perhaps being saved when he was supposed to save himself. So there may have been a lot of things. However, I didn't sting back. I just accepted the pain as pain. It was just pain. Like when the yellow jacket stings, it's just pain. There's no emotional baggage to the yellow jacket sting. It's a very clean pain. It's not like, you know, why did this happen to me? Well, I disturbed the nest, you know. So I disturbed his nest and I got stung. So that was it, you know. So our relationship moved on and healed, and he sent me the money. And I see him every now and then, big hug, best of friends.
But would you take that chance again?
Take what chance again?
The chance if he asks you for money?
Yeah.
You would,
Yeah.
at this point. You
Yeah.
would. But right after the sting, you certainly.
Now, this
would
happened,
not.
but this has been about 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if right after he
If he
stung
came
you,
back,
at
if
that
he came
point-
back after that, oh, okay, and said, can I borrow $500?
Right.
No.
Right.
Mhm.
Because don't you think there's a time when you say, okay, I'm aware of this,
Yeah.
I know what happened, I'm now in control, because I'm aware of it.
Well, just
Okay.
like this, I'm not gonna go back there and cut the grass with
But that's what I mean, it's the
yellow
same thing as
jacket
you
is
cutting the
I mean,
grass.
that's-
It's the same thing, don't go back twice to the same issue.
Yeah,
Well, you could spray it first. As a grass, you need to work on it.
yeah, I can see, yeah, putting these two together, if he came back and said, I just lost my job, can I borrow $500? I could create different conditions.
I'm spraying the yellow
You
jacket.
know what I mean? Well, I'm putting everything together. I can spray them.
You spray him.
Yeah, so this whole idea of non-reactivity does not mean you don't do anything, you see. But what you do is wise, having been stung. However, you don't hold the pain, you see, of resentment. You know, like I resent being stung by the yellow jacket. We just don't do that.
Don't you think that's very hard?
Yeah.
It must take I mean, I've come to that point too with things in my life where I have said, it's just not worth the
life's
aggravation,
too short,
pain,
yeah.
life is too short to deal with it. But I think in my younger years, there was a lot more resentment
Yeah.
in my heart when I got
See,
stung.
this is the me that comes up.
Yeah,
You know, like this is the present moment. That just something happens. You know, and then out of that happening, this me being attacked by the world comes up, and then once that comes up and we identify with it, that's going to create its own laws. And it's going to spill into attacking them and then do something to you. And the next thing you know, you're in this big humongous, the news is full of this. Where what we're seeing is the end of this, where something happens like this, a domestic dispute or something. And by the time it gets in the news, it is metastasized to the point where it gets public attention, you see. But if you trace it back, it would probably be some simple little act. Where it all began, So what this practice is to catch it at the simple act until it becomes a cancer. And that takes a practice, because you just can't snap your fingers and do it, because you're dealing with a me in a way of reacting to the world that we've created our whole life has been constructing this thing, you see. And now we're at a time in our life where we have some wisdom. And we're tired of we're tired of amusement parks. I've been on that roller coaster and I get sick every time. So I'm not going to ride it again. Why pay to get sick? So, yeah.
In your reaction to the friend who had been encouraged to make you a Buddha,
Yeah.
after you realized how hurt you were, in my mind, you made a conscious decision to change your behavior. And that was a bomb to you. You absorbed the disappointment and hurt of the supposed friendship. But you didn't persist in pursuing it, you just let it go. And that was
I
a
did,
beautiful and appropriate thing to
Well,
do.
I don't know if I was a change. Yeah, I guess it was a change. There was a letting go. It was a death.
Yeah,
In that kind of
sure.
when you get a hit like that, I mean, it can, it's a broken trust. So marriages go through this when you get your partner deceiving you or running around or something, there's a or I think maybe the first one is when we find out there's no Santa Claus. You know, so the child is innocent and open, Santa Claus, and the parents hype them up for 2 or 3 years. Santa Claus is coming and it starts now, good Lord, it's already out there now, you know. So the kids are already, every new generation of kids, they get indoctrinated into Santa Claus is coming. And so it's all bit what Santa Claus, watch out, Santa Claus knows if you're bad and all this stuff. You know, and so the kids all hyped up, and it's like eating tons of sugar, and by the time Christmas Day comes down there, they're out of their minds. My sister, this is fun. No, anyway, I guess it relates, but she was visiting once when she was younger, and her big thing was the kids waited until the parents came down so they could all open the presents together. And she was upstairs, and she heard the kids in the house, and she came running down the stairs, don't open their presents, and she fell and broke her ankle.
Oh, no.
So we spent Christmas in the emergency room.
Oh,
Oh.
But, so anyway, that's, yeah.
You talked the other day about intention versus expectation, and you added, if we can think the world is not against us, I've been doing that in the morning, and it sort of opens up my day for me, and I wanted to thank you for that.
Well, there too, yeah, this paradigm here is something happens that's not supposed to happen, and out of that happening comes this world is against me. So the world has done something to me it shouldn't have. So the world can be a yellow jacket, it can be my partner, it can be my good friend, it can be my car breaking down, or it can be my liver. You know, in other words, all of this is the world that is stinging me. You know, and my belief is that it shouldn't, because I'm either a good person or I'm doing everything right, or that's not the way it's supposed to be, or I pray to God, now why is he doing this? You know, when all the story comes in, you know, it shouldn't be this way, why me, you see? So this is all coming out of the paradigm, the expectation that the world should be my friend, but I experience it as being my enemy. So now I got this tension, you see, between I'm experiencing the world as attacking me, but it should not be doing that, you see. So now I've got this ambiguity in my mind where I'm experiencing this, but it should be this, and I can't put the two together. You know, it's like this. You can't put this, the world should be like this, should be this way, but it is this way because it's happening right now. You know, I got this thing. I can't put them together because they're logically incompatible. You know, this is candy, this is the book. The candy can't be the book and the candy at the same time.
Is there power in the intention of the day that the world is your friend?
Well, what this practice is about, first of all, seeing that this is going on. So, I mean, you have to catch your hand in the cookie jar. You see what I mean? I mean, you can't, thinking about it, you know, is okay, but other people doing it, all that. But until you catch your own hand in the cookie jar, that's when the practice kicks in. Because even noticing that you are creating the yellow jacket sting, in other words, that you're creating the conditions for you to experience the world as attacking you, is that we are creating those conditions for us to experience that, you see, is our doing. And we're unconscious of it because we have been brainwashed to do it by our culture and because of our own mental history and whatever. You know, this is the way the world works in our society. I mean, this is the way we're conditioned to see the world. Yeah.
Where do feelings come into this?
Thoughts, well,
Just thoughts,
thoughts come with, it's like when you go to the airport,
yeah.
you're the thought going to the airport, and you got all this emotional baggage that you're
Okay.
taking with you. So
Okay.
thoughts have emotional baggage,
Okay,
right? So if the thought comes up of my friend, if I see my friend, you see, now, I don't see, I go see him now, and we're just like, nothing ever happened.
because that's happening to me right now.
Yeah, so what I mean is, if I went to see my friend, and I had not let go
Yeah,
of the sting,
yeah,
as soon as I saw him, the sting would be back.
yeah.
And I might say then, oh, well, I shouldn't feel that, I forgave him, but it would be there.
Yeah.
Or I would turn away and I wouldn't want to see him.
Mhm.
Or I would go see him with an expression on my face that he would recognize as an attack on him or a judgment on him, you see. Then he would say something that I would experience as one more sting,
Okay.
you see.
See, that I can understand with people, it's like right now, I have Crohn's disease. So I had major surgery many times, and in May I had surgery again. I've been on prednisone for 2 years, so I'm finally weaned myself off of prednisone about 3.5 weeks ago. Well, prednisone is a good drug, and it's a terrible drug, okay?
That they're all like that.
I mean, it really is. I mean, you know, obviously it
Yeah.
helped me through things and it didn't, okay? Now I'm going through adverse reactions to going off with prednisone,
Mhm.
okay? And this
Probably get a
happened,
little chemical dependency.
there's all kinds of, yeah, some of that, plus upset stomach and all kinds of stuff. So like, you know, it's like I wake up, my intention is that I'm going to wake up and I'm going to feel better. I'm not going to go through those feelings today. I'm not going to go through the downers that you get, okay? You get a touch of depression, you get a touch of this and that. But then you start feeling, you feel like you're being attacked, okay? You feel like your body's attacking you with this thing. And you're conscious of it, okay? Then on the other hand, you know, you don't know how to get, you're experiencing something else, okay, not what you intended, you're experiencing something else, and then your feelings kind of pour in and say, why is this going on with me this long? You know, it should be over, it should be done.
All right, let's,
You
I'm
understand
glad you
me?
brought this up.
You understand that or not?
I'm glad you brought this up, because we can really put this into the context of this practice, which sets us up, and it says, I'm awake, I'm aware, and I welcome all perceptions as a guide to the ground of my essential being or my true nature, which is peace. Right. So if you pull this thing apart, it says, welcome every perception. Okay, so so what you just described there was, first of all, creating an intention is, I'm not going to feel the side effects of the unpleasant feelings of this thing. I'm not going to do it today.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they start coming in, and you're not welcoming them. You know, this should not be. I put up the wall. You know, I'm doing the right thing. I'm putting up the wall, and they creak in through the cracks. So that creates a tension between what you're experiencing, this unwelcome feelings, and what should be, what you want to be. You know, so there's a tension there. You see, and that creates stress, and it creates the conditions for more side effects.
Right. Exactly.
So then so this becomes kicking this turkey down the
Vicious
road,
cycle.
you know.
Vicious
So
cycle.
how do you intervene?
Yeah.
In the same way, if you have somebody who's an alcoholic and we're all gonna have an intervention, and we're going to come in, sit down, and see if we can intervene means
Help stop.
I got on my,
A bee in there.
yeah. Well, these are my winter shirts, you see. My summer shirts are my Tommy shirts, which are my uncle's shirts. So my winter shirts, it's not winter yet, it's kind of warm, so I should have worn the other one. But anyway, yeah, so you have this, and this, by the way, is called the Ouroboros, which is a snake eating its own tail. So that is thoughts eating themselves, you know, so what you described is the Ouroboros, which is a vortex or a tape loop that keeps getting stronger, you see. So we don't know how to break it up. So what we're looking for is a point of entry to break the energy of this. You know, if you have a whirlpool, not a big one in the ocean, but a little one, and you stick your hand, I mean, if you break the pattern, it just goes blow up, you know. Or like with ants, if you've got a nest of ants under this rock here, they're all organized, they know what to do, they're all running in a pattern, and you lift this up, and it disturbs them. They all go everywhere, and you say, wow, I mean, they're just chaos. And then pretty soon they recreate the pattern. They've moved on, and they all know what to do intuitively. It's not like there's a boss there running around telling everybody what to do. They just do it as an organism, boom. So these patterns, which you describe here, is a self-generating thought loop that brings in emotion with it, you see, because the emotion is the energy. Oh my God, you know, the feelings and all that. So what we're looking for is a way to break it up, you see. So the first two practices here that we've gone over now is body sensing and breath. Now, body sensations and breath are not thought, and they're not part of our thinking pattern. They're not part of our past. They're not part of our culture. They're not part of my family. They're not part of Western civilization. The whole catastrophe. There is just living sensations of my life and my breath. All right? So this is the power of now. So if you want to get to now, you're not going to get to it in our thinking because we think about now. We want to get directly to now, like in a board game where you go directly to home. You bypass all the stuff. I want to go directly to home. Or if you want the rubber, you want the car off the jacks, so you stop spinning thought, and you want your life to drive again. You want the rubber to hit the road. So and when that happens, you actually feel your life moving in the same way when you're. I've never been pregnant, but I superimpose myself in this because when a person is pregnant, the first time they feel life, something kicks, it's like, wow, something is there. Before it was an idea. I think something's there. They tell me something's there. You see it on the thing. I'm getting a little fat, but when that kicks, boom, something living is there, you see. It's real. So when this gets broken for the first time, you can experience that this is real. I'm real. And I have some control over my life, you know, that I'm not a victim to my own mind. Because we're understanding how our mind works, and with understanding, you're liberated from it. No understanding, you're just in an amusement park. You know, going from one horror show to the next. Paying for it. So we break. Okay, so first of all, change the way you're looking at the situation. The opposite, the piece that you're working with is this is the worst thing that ever, you know, the Crohn's disease is the worst thing that ever happened. No, I'm just, you know what I mean? It's bad, it's a pain, it's, you know, all the negatives, it's all negative. So not seeing it, the opposite at all. So the opposite is that it's candy. It's good. There's a positive aspect to this. But I don't see it, I just see the negative, right? And then, of course, being negative, I want to do everything I can to get rid of it. But it's like a sticky pad. It's like this is a sticky pad, and I keep throwing it down, but it's like the Laurel and Hardy thing, trying to get rid of, they're stuck in it, you know, the paper, sticky pad. So we can't get rid of the sticky pad, you see, because it's painful. So yeah, it's like holding a yellow jacket. And the more you try to flick the yellow jacket away, the more it stings you. You see. So what we're interested in now is finding a way to discover, because obviously we haven't done it before, or we would have done it. So we're looking for a way that's unknown to us to discover how to break this cycle. So, like in the practice, bring the negative Crohn's degrees with the feelings of it here, and and imagine how it would be if this were a good thing. That I welcome this. That this is going to have wisdom. In other words, the goodness of it is that it holds wisdom for you. Like a diamond in the backyard. There's wisdom in that mud. If you can open it up, you're going to find a diamond. Otherwise, just a mud ball, throw it away, you see. So there's a diamond in there for you, but it's not going to be in the negative side. Because that's just the yellow jacket. Right. So if you change this, your approach to it, and this is experimental. I mean, you just try this to see how, it's not like this is going to work. It's just, well, I'll just play with this. And just say that, you've got it. I mean, this is what is. You can't change it. You can't go back in time and turn some little knob and say, now you don't get it, you see. This reminds me of, as I restore photographs, and people have come in with a big group picture, and he gave me permission to do that. It's getting warm.
It is.
It's like there's no quiet pool here. There's a noisy pool. So they were coming with a group. They were coming with a group photograph, and they say, "No, but this is my ex-husband." I think one person.
Take him out.
Take him out. And they would say, and they would assume that if you take this person out, there would be a background behind it.
Never existed.
You know what I mean? You just take him out, and no, lady, I have to rebuild that whole part of the picture. I have to create the back. It's not going to be. There's no background behind the image, you see. So that's just this big revelation. So it takes time to do that. You just can't take him out. You have to rebuild it behind, so it looks like he wasn't ever there. You see. So there's this idea in our heads that if I could go back in time, I could somehow take this event out and everything would be hunky-dory. And that's just fantasy. You can't go back in time, and if you took it out, you would not be who you are now. You could be dead because you take it out and you might have been hit by a truck.
That's right.
So the Crohn's disease kept you from being hit by a truck. It's all just fantasy. It's just useless. The past doesn't exist.
Does the positive aspect have to be something that exists now or something that will exist?
Well, let's see all right. Here again, you see this is positive, this is negative. In other words, I'm seeing myself as positive, and the yellow jacket is negative. Bad. Ouch. So here's you, and here's the Crohn's disease. You're positive, that's the negative. But the reality is that it's one. In other words, the reality is what is, which is now. So the yellow jacket is now, the Crohn's disease is now, that's it. There's nothing personal. God wasn't mad at me. I didn't screw up.
Right.
I don't deserve it or not deserve it. See, that's all added. The fact, here it is. The fact is, the yellow jacket is stinging. It's just a fact. The fact is, my friend sent me a fake Buddha and says, "Here's your Buddha, shove it." Bam. I mean, it's just a fact. You see, I didn't add anything to it. Son of a bitch, isn't he thankful for what what kind of, all that stuff.
Yeah.
All that's added, you see, which creates the story of me. See, so there's what is, and then we add our story to it, yeah.
It seems to me there's a conflict between looking at a negative situation and turning it into positive, because that involves thinking again.
No,
You
it's,
got to really think about it.
I'm glad you brought that up. It's not by effort. What you're thinking here is that you can't by effort change the yellow jacket, the negative, into the positive, because they go together. You have to see them together as potential. And potential means it can be anything you want it to be. In other words, the meaning of it is given by you. There's no meaning in the Crohn's disease. There's no meaning in the yellow jacket sting. I give it the meaning, and I can give it a positive spin or a yellow or a negative spin, you see, which fits into the way I relate to life. You see, so some people are pessimists. Everything that happens is a negative. See, I told you so. Shit happens to me. Or there's the Pollyanna. Oh, well, that's the best thing that's going to happen to you now. Just be so thankful and thank Jesus, for this, because it's God's will and it's going to all work out. Yada yada. I'll give you a break. So either way, you're going to, we're not talking about those two. We're talking about seeing without, which is acceptance. So when you accept something as it is, you're accepting the positive and the negative potential of it. And then, without effort, it becomes something changes.
So it's sort of an emotional transition.
Pardon?
Change your emotion. It's an emotional transition, not just the thinking thing.
Well, there's this whole teaching, this whole practice, this whole way of looking at life is all about seeing what is. And there's no effort in seeing. In other words, if I see that this is a box, that this is a bag of chocolates, there's no effort in that. I don't have to try to see. Unless it's one of these trick games where you look at a picture and says, where's the donkey? Oh, I try to see it. I can't see the damn donkey. I can't see it. So I relax. Oh, there's the donkey. See, so the seeing happened when I relaxed the effort. You see, so this is not about effort. This is not about making Crohn's disease into something positive.
Oh, I've accepted Crohn's disease since I was 21.
Yeah. So
I accept that. Right now I'm having a harder time with, here we go again. Okay. Now I've got a drug that I am having side effects from. Okay. So I guess I have to look at the drug as it's a negative in the way it's a positive because it saved my life. Okay, it did.
it's ambiguous.
It's ambiguous. So then my difficulty is thinking of the future of how long are the side, thinking, how long are the side effects going to go on? Am I going to wake up tomorrow morning feeling so wrong?
I see all of that.
That should be just out of my mind.
Well,
Yes.
don't try to put it out here. What we're doing here is noticing it.
Yeah, no, that's it, yeah.
In other words, when you sit to meditation, stuff is going to come up. You don't say, oh, this shouldn't be, I shouldn't have this thought, I'm supposed to be a meditator, Or if you're a big moral Christian and you have a sexual thought, oh, I shouldn't have that thought, you see. So you get into all of this stuff, we're not talking about that, we're just talking about noticing it. And noticing it is welcoming. It's not saying, oh, I want it. You know what I mean? It's not like, I've been expecting you, I'm so happy you're here. It's just being open to what is. So if the thought comes up that you're fearful of the future of this, fine. That's what is.
That's what it is.
That's what is.
That's what's wrong.
So you're opening your awareness up to accept the little yellow jackets. You see, because every one of these negatives is like a little, has a sting to it, a little yellow jacket, you see. So you're trying to put up this barrier, this shouldn't be here, got to keep these bees out. Well, welcoming means that those bees belong here. You know, they're going to be bees, you know. So basically you become curious about the yellow jackets. You become curious about, that's interesting. So it's not a condemnation of either you or the disease. It's just being open to the fact that these thoughts are there. And then you'll discover that the resistance to the thoughts is what creates the thoughts. See, we think the resistance is going to get rid of them, but the resistance is creating because we're not two. In other words, I'm creating the yellow jackets because of my fear of them, but the reality of it is just, it's all one. So when you open this welcoming to what the mind is doing, you're not dividing your mind into this should be and that, you see.
No, I think that's interesting what you just said, because I don't want to dominate here. I'll just end it with this. But you know what's interesting is you said the should be's. I grew up all my life with the should be's.
Yeah.
All my life.
Yeah.
It should be this. And don't let the neighbor see this because it should be this way and that way and that, you know, this whole thing. Now this week has been kind of very difficult for me because, you know, I had to go to a very big wedding up in Minneapolis. So I was not up to talking to anybody about the negatives of going on with me. Because you should, you know, I didn't want to, first of all, and it wasn't the proper place, and you should not talk to anybody back.
Yeah.
Now I'm expecting company this weekend. You should be ready to entertain. Okay, you shouldn't be, you know, I have all these shoulds on my platter this week, and I think that's making it worse. Then if I had just, if my mind thought correctly, I would just say, well, I'm close enough to these people, if I have to say to them, I'm having problems, then I just tell them I'm having problems. And that's the way it goes, you know?
Well, look, if you're going to use let's do this, right? I firmly believe, from my own experience, in the transformative power of a metaphor. Now, a metaphor can be either dead or alive. If it's dead, it's good. A dead metaphor would be like the Greek myths. Well, that was the myth. But I have to make, for a metaphor to be my metaphor, it has to be created out of my life. And then it becomes a way for me to bring these opposites together in a story. So that's what this is a metaphor, in that the yellow jacket in me came out of the fact of the sting that I didn't, for a moment, did not know what it was. There was no, so then me and the yellow jacket came out of that. And it kind of like, so now everything that stings me, you see, you see what I mean? So now the metaphor becomes a way for me to get a handle on every little sting I feel in life. So if I'm at the traffic stop and I got to get somewhere and somebody blocks me, and I start getting irritated, there's a yellow jacket. You see, before I was peaceful, now me and the traffic has risen up, and I'm having a war with, not the traffic, that's just what is. I'm having a war with my reaction, which is me. You see, so that's the internal yellow jacket. So I'm having a war with myself, and that creates stress and side effects, like blood pressure and yada. So for me, this is a metaphor so that when I encounter things that sting me, I can use the metaphor in order to get outside of it and accept it. So if you make Crohn's disease your metaphor, it's got all the ingredients in it, and really begin to accept it as a creative way for you to deal with your whole life. You see, nothing stands alone. So your Crohn's disease and what you're doing with that is not separate from what you're doing with your relatives coming for dinner and for your whole life, and for what your wedding, and for the whole way you relate to life can be found in this diamond of the Crohn's disease. You know, so that if you make that into a metaphor, then whenever you feel the irritation with yourself because you're not being what you should be, or whatever the thing is, you can say, aha, there's the Crohn. So you work with the Crohn disease, you work with that, you work with your whole life. It's not like a bunch of pieces. You know, you work with one aspect of your life, you work with the whole thing. You see? So, I love that name, Crohn. You know what I'm going to pull up? If you see the old woman or a young woman?
Oh, I see an old woman.
Oh, I see a young one.
I don't know. I've seen both. Both.
You see a young woman and an old woman.
I see the bird.
Get out of here.
I don't see that.
You see a young woman.
I see the young one, but I can't see that.
Well, the old woman, this is your nose. See, the young woman is a profile. The old woman is looking this way. Here's her nose, her hair, 2 eyes, her mouth.
Oh.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
Now catch that moment right there.
Oh, I see.
So, it's beautiful. So, that I see, you see, was not thought. Trying didn't do it. Trying to see the old woman. Suddenly, I see. Now you have an ambiguous picture. You have the old woman and the young woman. You can't change either one without changing the other. But they both stand alone.
Yeah.
So the old woman is a complete picture, the young woman is a complete, yet they make one complete. So this is what we call ambiguity. And what is the one? You see, what the one is, out of which these 2 pictures rise, is the ink blot that has no meaning. So if you just saw ink, that would be the one, and then out of that one rose 2 pictures. You could say a positive and a negative. Of the young woman, positive, the old woman, negative. So, but we're conditioned to only see one. So you're conditioned to see Crohn's as the old woman. But it's really a positive. But we can't see it as long as we hold the old woman. As long as you hold one picture, you can't see the other. So you can see the other if you let go of the one. So if you let go of the negative, its opposite comes into view. It's the same world, but now you see it differently. It's like seeing through a glass darkly, that saying, you know? So you really, the same world, the same Crohn's disease, the same medical way you see it in your inner happiness and your inner peace changes, and you're feeling that your life is moving again, instead of being stuck with the Crohn. So we want to get our life moving, and we can as long as we hold to the old Crohn.
Does the positiveness, and I know it would be a word, affect other things? I mean, she's trying to deal with this, she's going to seek the positive. Does that change other things?
She's not seeking.
She's not seeking, okay.
See, this is a relaxing of the resistance.
Resistance to, okay.
So that's welcoming. So you're welcoming, when we name something, like I see this and I name it the crone. And now that's all I see. So I have named it and I have given that crone existence by my naming it. So now there's me in relationship to the crone, and there's tension, because the crone is me, and now this, I don't want to be like that. So now I shouldn't be I should be a young woman. I shouldn't be a crone. So now there's inner resistance, you see. But I created it. But I'm really also the young woman. So we look in the mirror and we see an old person, but we are a young person at the same time. So we're putting them together, you see. It's not like it's one or the other. I got to be one. I got to be the young woman, so I'll be Joan Rivers and get plastic surgery. Now I'll look young, you see. But I feel old.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we just who we are, you see, then and accept ourselves and see life as being both. So my friend who broke the trust and hurt me was still my good friend. You see, nothing. I didn't cut him in half and say, now you're a bad friend. That for some reason that didn't happen. You see. So even though he hurt me, he was still my friend. And because I didn't hold him to being I didn't hold him to being the crone, you see. That released him from the person, from being the one who attacked me. So then I was okay.
Did you express any of those feelings
To him?
to him?
No.
Okay. That's what.
Nothing.
That's
There was no
hard
more
to do.
contact. There was no more contact.
It's sort of like a jolt, wasn't it like a jolt when you did that to you? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
sort of like a jolt.
It was like a kick.
Yeah, it's a kick in the gut.
A kick in the gut.
And then you have to say, I've been kicked in the gut, I got stung by the yellow jacket. I spent 30 years fighting Crohn's disease. Now what, it looks like this class.
Now it's
is about-
okay.
Yeah, and what it looks like this class is about is, I think you're trying to teach us, because I've been chronically secretary, that our brain trained us. Oh, what's kind of, even though right this second I'm feeling good, I'm not going to recognize that because I know any minute now something's going to kick in again. That's the kind of, if you do that, it's a real hard habit to break unless you turn off the thinking part and turn on the
Yeah, so this, in that example, right, do you ever watch Everyone Loves Raymond?
Yes,
That's Raymond.
yes.
Oh no, the White House spilled over. In other words, he was not happy when everything was going right. It had to be something, he was happy when something bad was
It's the hardest habit to break. It really is a hard habit to break. It's
yeah,
quick and
so
dissolve.
that is a conditioning, which is this, the Ouroboros, it's just this continuous thing, and we live in it, so we think it's normal. Because we've always been in it. Our parents are in it.
Yeah.
They taught us to be in it. Their parents taught them. This is handed down. Our society is in it. Our economy runs on it. This is a big stream to swim against. Yeah.
I think I mentioned to you the last time around that my mother trained me to worry because in her mind, you couldn't be an adult and mature unless you could worry about stuff.
Yeah.
That's why her brain was.
And that's what she just, like a good parent, just gave you what she did.
Right.
It's like with Santa Claus. Well, they need to, they got to know what the real world is like.
Right.
I'm still
You're
getting
gonna
over
be-
that Santa Claus.
You're going to be disappointed. The trust is going to be
I'm
broken.
not done with Santa Claus, I'm sorry.
But I'm not saying there shouldn't be any Santa Claus, but if you just look at what it is from that for a little innocent child who by nature trusts the world, trusts the parents, trust the world. I mean, that is our nature, that the world is my friend. And suddenly Santa Claus is presented in a story form, which is the way children communicate. Not through philosophies and abstractions, but through story. So we have the story of Santa Claus, and everybody, the whole society is doing it. TV is full of the children, and we're all pumped up to come running down there and get the treasure. And this is a mythological metaphor, because the Christmas tree is a symbol for the tree of life that's in the Garden of Eden. So you have the tree in the Garden of Eden, which Adam and Eve are in bliss with God, where everything they need is given to them naturally. If you want a fruit, it's on the tree, everything is there. You just pick it, right? So you're in harmony with the world. So the Christmas tree and the Garden of Eden tree, the world tree, is in harmony, you see. And so Adam and Eve broke the trust with God and got kicked out. So Santa Claus now, to the child, is like God, right? He's going to give you good stuff if you're good, right? So it's kind of like a story form of God. And you believe it, and then you find out from the neighborhood kid that it's fake. And I remember going to my mother and asking her, is it true?
Yeah, I know.
Remember the thing with the baseball story, Shoeless Joe? So Shoeless Joe was a big baseball player, and he took a bribe, and the thing on the headline was, "Say it ain't so, Shoeless Joe."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to tell this family story about my daughter's discovery about Santa Claus.
Yeah.
She came to Dad and me, and she said, "Oh dear," she burst into tears. And her reaction was, "So there's no Santa Claus? That means you love me that much to give me all those toys, all those years?"
Wow.
So that's another story.
Well, you were bitter.
That was good.
You're the only people I know to
Wow,
in the world.
that was something, huh?
That's pretty neat.
It's kind of like to me, it's kind of like a Western form of circumcision. The trust is being set off.
And that could very much reverberate with people's subsequent relationship to the great God.
Exactly. We don't. This is extended. You see, because we'll take the marriage, which is on trust, and if that romance breaks, the trust is broken, and then the person says, "I'll never fall in love. I'll never trust again."
Yes.
Or if you try to quit smoking and you think, "I did it," and then the next thing you know, you're smoking again, you stop trusting yourself.
Yes.
Well, just quit smoking. So now you're just going to be, So it's that, it has ramifications. And today, with Nixon was our president was Santa Claus. Nixon came along and said, "There is no Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I'm a crook." So Nixon broke the trust, you see. And then, of course, then as moralism came into our politics, Clinton broke the trust by being morally imperfect, you see. So there's that other dimension. And Nixon was just a criminal, but so Clinton did not do any offenses like Nixon. He had moral imperfections, you see. And so now our whole presidency of government has been like a broken trust with one thing after another. And now people I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
And so no matter what Obama does, we don't trust him.
Right.
So it's like so this is a situation that we have in science. People don't trust science, you see, because they're paid by the corporate. It's all fake. So there's a huge amount of emotional children who are disappointed by Santa Claus out there. The government, the world. I don't even trust the world. You can't trust anybody. Nothing. And you can't live that way.
But it's really hard not to live that way. I mean, there's something almost hourly coming at you that's a disappointment.
Well, Reagan had a few jewels. So he, Reagan, if you recall, communist empire. He was a warrior against them, can't
Break
trust
down
them and all
those
that. So
walls.
the next thing you know, he's bringing these two opposites together. So Reagan and Gorbachev
Tear down
knocked the
those
right and the left side together,
Right.
right? And dissolved the Cold War. And Reagan said, trust, but verify. So that right there is an ambiguous situation. You know, if you're checking up on somebody, you're not trusting them. Well, yes, you're trusting them, but you're checking up on them. See what I mean?
I think a lot of us, I think a lot of us often feel powerless
Yeah.
in this society, and if we don't start looking at things differently, it's going to affect.
Yeah, we're just going down the drain.
Exactly. So you have to figure out a way.
Well, you know, I think, I think that when I look back at the excitement about Obama was the speech he gave at the Democratic Convention, which he talked about two Americas, bringing them together. And he had great rhetoric. In his rhetoric, in his speech, and his heart, he was able to give a vision of these two opposites, the left and the right, the blue and the red, coming together as one America. You see, but then as he got into it, that he was not able to hold that vision because of the politics and the construction of the nation.
But doesn't that tell us that the populace in general would like for this positive picture to come about?
Yeah, everybody wants it. Yeah, the conservative side passionately wants one America. The liberal side passionately wants one America. But the conservative side is saying, I want one America, but it has to look like my America. You know, so it has to look like the old woman. You know, so the old woman. So they have to come together, you see. And that the pain of the tension between the blue and the red and the left and the right, and all of these polarities which keep multiplying.
Yes.
Because when anything happens on the news, it quickly splits into a left and a right. You see, it can't just be what is. There's got to be a story about what is. There has to be a logic and a meaning to why that happened, and each side has their own story. Nobody can allow it to be. It's just a state, you see. And media, and I really think a lot about this, but I think you can, because we all have the experience of seeing what the world was like before media, and by media I mean anything that comes on a screen. You know, TV, internet, not so much newspapers and magazines, but the delivery system of the screen and the image is new to humanity, and social media now is an interaction with that, whereas when TV came out, it was passive. I mean, you turned it on, you sat there, and you couldn't do anything to it. You couldn't give a comment. It was passive, active. Now it's active. So now everybody's a reporter. Everybody's a photographer. And anything that happens is directly connected to YouTube. You know, so if you smack your wife in an elevator in California, you're on the globe.
Yeah, that's right.
So that changes everything, you see, because now it's not just some guy smacking his wife in an elevator. Now it's a national event. And that one little event, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but that private event is now a public entertainment thing, so that everybody can politicize it and draw their, polarize it into two opposite tensions, you see. So we're back at it. So whatever happens, whatever little sting happens, you see, gets sucked up into this polarity, and people are, and it is so new that it's hard for people to see what's going on. Because we like it, it's fun. We have a cell phone, entertainment, you know. And so news has become our entertainment.
And the young people don't know anything else.
They don't, it's like fish in a swimming, they're like fish in a fishbowl, they don't know what the bowl is.
Exactly.
They're swimming it.
Right.
The beheading is going to cause a war.
Well, we were talking about that before, I think, I don't know if you were here or not, but with ISIS is Al-Qaeda without the box cutters. But they're getting more reaction out of cutting off a few heads than you would get if you blew up an embassy. Because they're making their terror personal through the media. So everybody thinks, oh my God, the Grim Reaper's coming for us. And you have a senator coming up and say, what was his, Georgia senator or something? He's talking about ISIS and he's saying everybody's going to die. No, it's like death is coming. It's going like Ebola. You know, Ebola's coming, it's going to wipe us all out. Its name is ISIS. You know, so oh my God.
Well, it's like your mouth beef.
And the lobby is
Restricted topics. That's
take
what
care of it.
Okay, anyway, y'all, thank you so much.
We're going up and
Listen, work with the senses and work with the breath.
That second one there?
Work with the breath.
Okay.
Your homework is when you go through your week, look for little yellow jackets, look for a little irritation or a fear or a worry or some little sting and say, oh, there's the yellow jacket, and go to the rest. And begin to be aware of the breath. Left, right side. I do this all the time. I'm walking, I'm breathing. I go for a walk, I can feel the left side of the body, feel the right. Do that. So work with that this week.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.